Hey, it's me, Vicki Marie. And good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are in this crazy world we're living in. So, in this video, I'm giving the latest update on the trial of the killers of this little mite, Sarah Sharif, 10 years old. Was found deceased in her house in her little pajamas in upstairs in the bunk bed. And the people responsible, personally, in my opinion, all of them are responsible. This is her father, Irfan, her stepmother, Baynash Batul, and her uncle, Faisal Malik. And these three awful people, by the time Sarah's body was discovered in the house, they were already had fled the country. They'd fled to Pakistan, and they'd taken the remaining children that they have with them. From where Irfan actually telephoned the police from Pakistan, confessed to killing Sarah by accident. He was punishing her legally, he said, and she died. He didn't mean to kill her. He was all very upset, crying, etc. And if you look at the playlist for the Sarah Sharif trial, you will see, I have a playlist about Sarah's case, and we have covered this on previous interviews. So initially, he claimed responsibility. He admitted he had murdered Sarah. He said they would, it was an accident, he said they would come back and face the music. And they did come back. And as soon as they landed at Gatwick Airport, I think it was Gatwick or Heathrow, they were all arrested, the three of them, because this woman in the middle was Sarah's stepmother. And this of the guy on the right-hand side, this is Faisal. He lived in the house with the Sharifs, and he must have been a witness, if not an actual protagonist, in the abuse of Sarah, because it turned out when the autopsy was done that Sarah had suffered multiple injuries. As time progressed and the investigation progressed, turned out she'd been hit by a cricket bat, a rod, she'd been tied up, she'd been forced to wear nappies. She had injuries consistent with a fall from a great height or a very severe traffic accident. She had so many injuries. Her poor little body, I think, just gave up the ghost in the end. And I think Sarah just gave up. And I hope, her angels were waiting to pick her up and take her off to a better place. She was so beaten that her own mother, when her mother had to identify this is her mother Olga, her and Irfan obviously was split up, and there were accusations of domestic violence, etc. And for some reason, only known to the social services, Irfan, although Irfan had already, had been accused of domestic violence several times, not only with Olga, but with all his partners, he got custody of little Sarah. And that's when Sarah's abuse really started big time. So, and then unfortunately, Olga, the mother, probably because Irfan made it so difficult for her to have access for Sarah. But, I don't know the details about Olga. I don't know why she didn't get custody. There's obviously some issues there, because for a court not to give a mother custody is so unusual, isn't it? Anyway, she didn't get custody, and unfortunately, she did not insist on seeing Sarah as often as maybe she should have done. Definitely she should have done. And would she have maybe got to know what what's happening with this precious little girl. So now, when this photo was taken, Sarah, she's not wearing the hijab. She never usually did wear the hijab. Nobody in this family, although it's a Muslim family, none of the females in this family normally wore a hijab. And neither did Sarah initially. But as time went on and the longer she was with this family, then Sarah started wearing the hijab. And it's thought that the reason for that was not religious reasons, but just because she had so many bruises that the hijab did help to cover up the bruises. Then apparently she got bullied at school for wearing a hijab. And so using that as an excuse, Baynash, stepmother, and I presume in conjunction with Irfan, they took Sarah out of school to homeschool her because she was getting bullied at school, which is ironic when you think of the abuse she was actually getting at home. So all these three are on trial for murder and also for allowing a child to be hurt. You know, that sort of charge. Now, when the trial started, so the trial's been going on quite a few weeks now. When it first started, Irfan started by changing what he'd originally said, that it was all his fault, and blaming Baynash and saying she was the evil one, she was the psycho, she was abusive not only towards Sarah but to him also. Lots of things like that, he said. Then Baynash's lawyer came out and, said that no, that wasn't true, that in fact Baynash was a victim because she was so much younger than Irfan. She was a victim herself. She'd been a victim of honour violence when she was young, nothing to do with Irfan, to do with her own family. She'd been in care. She was a natural victim, if you like, for Irfan because he could control her. Now, initially, Irfan denied that, but then suddenly, out of the blue, he turned around and accepted all responsibility and said it was him alone that had abused Sarah and nobody else had abused Sarah. So there you go. You know, basically this trial has had a lot of twists and turns. I personally don't think you can believe a word that any of them say about what happened to this little girl. I think they're all complicit. Now, Baynash and Faisal, the uncle, they have not testified. They did not take the stand. They, exercised their right to not take the stand. So we have not heard directly from them at all. In fact, Irfan is the only one who has actually testified. And as I say, now he has accepted full responsibility. So what happened today was yesterday there was no, the trial didn't happen yesterday because one of the jury members were ill. But today what happened was, let's put the picture of Sarah back. What happened today was the uncle's lawyer gave his closing statements. Okay, so what basically I think Irfan's lawyer's closing statements were basically, yes, he did it. What did he say? He said something like his own lawyer called him a scumbag and said he would probably burn in hell forever for what he'd done to Sarah. But that on that particular day, he didn't. It wasn't him who did it. I mean, it was the weirdest defence I've ever heard. And then Baynash's lawyer, when he did his closing arguments, blamed it all on Irfan. But one thing that is a definite problem for Baynash's lawyer is that there were bite marks on Sarah that did not match either to Irfan or to Faisal. And we don't know if they would have matched to Baynash because she refused to give the dental impressions. So we know that these two men did not cause the bite marks that were on Sarah. So who did? Well, it's it's her, isn't it? Obviously, seems obvious it's going to be Baynash that caused the bite marks. But we don't know because she refused to give dental. How could she refuse? You know, how can someone refuse to give dental impressions once they've been arrested for murder? That really surprised me, that. But anyway, she did. So, but the men did, and the men were both, even Irfan, who's admitted to most of the abuse that was done to Sarah, even Irfan, it wasn't his bite marks, and it wasn't Faisal's bite marks. So it's like they're likely to be Baynash's. So, let's put Sarah's picture back up. So what happened today? So what happened was the defense lawyer for Faisal Malik, the uncle, stood up and said that the father of 10-year-old Sarah is controlling the narrative even now. That Irfan is still trying to control the narrative. He talked about how Irfan had previously accepted full responsibility for Sarah's death, but had denied intending to kill her. And all three of them deny murder and causing or allowing the death of a child. So Michael Ivers, KC, who is the defense lawyer for, they've all got different lawyers, all three of them. So you've got a different defense lawyer for all of the three defendants, and you've got the prosecutor. The defense lawyer for Faisal is Michael Ivers, and he said his client is not responsible for the sins of his brother. And he's added, Mr. Malik gave his teeth marks because he'd never bitten her. He's never burnt her. He'd never hit her. He's never done anything. There isn't a single piece of evidence that he did anything, that he caused any damage to Sarah, which is probably true. But at the end of the day, he did turn a blind eye to it. It's just as bad, isn't it? And he said that the evidence against his client was entirely circumstantial. And he said it was laughable, bluntly laughable, to say that the evidence against Sarah's uncle was the same as the other defendants. He said there is no evidence. There isn't even a strong circumstantial case. It's entirely lacking in evidence. It's all based on must-haves. And the idea that we started this trial with the position that my client was always at home has shown to be wrong, laughably wrong. So don't forget, we've heard that Sarah's been hooded, burned and beaten during these 2 years of abuse. Anyway, he also said, Mr. Ivers told the jurors, you don't have to be Mystic Meg in this case to realise there's an issue in and around causation. And he said, in a nutshell, Mr. Sharif accepted a beating that he had delivered on the 6th, and there was then some breaks. What? In the end, we got to a position where the indictment wasn't put again. Oh, he's talking about Irfan then, not about Faisal. Anyway, what if he had pleaded guilty and the Crown were asking questions based upon what had happened on the 6th? So this is when it's supposed to have happened, 6th of August this year. If he'd said yes, if he'd said guilty, do you think anybody would be scratching around trying to add a bruise to a bite, etc., or some cumulative effect when the answer is staring you straight in the face about what caused her death? Irfan Sharif is controlling the narrative even now. Yes, I mean, it'd be interesting actually to think if Irfan had pled guilty. Would there even have been any charges against the other two? I think so. I think there would still have been the charges. Anyway, during his evidence, Irfan Sharif went on to deny he beat Sarah on the 6th of August, 2 days before she died. And this defense lawyer for Faisal said, the reason it's now denied is it's simply put in all likelihood that it was that beating 2 days before that in the end led to her death, because they haven't been able to establish an exact cause of death for Sarah, but there's thought that just this culmination of injuries just led to Sarah's body just sort of, she did have an injury, a bleed to the brain, but there's no one particular thing that they've been able to attribute to Sarah, to give a cause of death, a specific cause of death. So basically, it seems like Faisal's defense is that that Irfan has admitted to all these beatings and what have you. And I do think it's probably likely that Faisal did not actually participate in the beatings, etc. But Faisal most definitely 100% knew exactly what was going on. He went with that. Why did he go to Pakistan? If he had nothing to hide, if he'd done nothing, why did he go flee to Pakistan? He didn't have to go, did he? He didn't do anything according to him. It was the other two, or it was Irfan. So I don't understand why Faisal went to Pakistan. He could have phoned the police, phoned an ambulance. And of course, another thing that this lawyer did not mention is that it's thought, due to evidence that the police found at the home, that it was Faisal, because his uniform was in the bin, his McDonald's uniform was in the bin with all the other things that had come off Sarah, they think, a dirty nappy, because she'd been kept in a nappy. And it's thought that after this poor little girl died, Faisal, not Irfan, took her body out to the back and jet washed it to clean it, and then they redressed her in pajamas. But actually, when she died, she was wearing this soiled nappy. God knows what state she was in, bless her. And it's thought that Faisal did that. So to me, that is just, it's a no-brainer. He's as guilty as anybody, because he was trying to, I don't know, cover up evidence, or maybe it's a Muslim tradition to wash the body, but not jet wash the body, is it? Nearly swore then, didn't quite do it. Just makes me very angry, everything that happened to Sarah. Just want to see these three people. I want to see, especially hearing that. As soon as I heard that from the trial, that was it. I was gone as far as he was concerned. I hope he gets, just the same sentence. It doesn't matter if he did it. He may as well have done it. He may as well have beat Sarah himself, because he just stood by and watched it happen. He was well aware of everything that happened to her, even if he didn't actually inflict those injuries himself. And don't forget as well, he declined to give evidence. So that's where we are. The judge is summing up for the jury, or that was what started after Faisal's defence solicitor gave the closing arguments. The judge will have started the summing up, and as soon as the summing up is finished, then the jurors will be deliberating. So hopefully we'll have a verdict by the end of the week. Okay, thank you for watching. Thank you so much for caring about Sarah. Here's a candle for Sarah. Justice for Sarah. I'll see you really soon in the next video. And until then, as always, may your God go with you.